JoySchtick.Show.
Aloha and welcome to the JoySchtick Show, a podcast where three friends from high school in Hawaii get together to chat about the latest things we've watched, read, and played from pop culture. I'm Thomas, and today we are joined with a very special guest. I just got to meet him not too long ago, and he pretty much answered the bat signal to my call looking for amazing guests who dive into pop culture. We have David Weinberger from Shonen Flop. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's Monday. Just playing some Hades too. Just got that. So, had a nice burrito I made. So
there you go.
It could be doing a lot worse. How about you?
Right on. Yeah, doing great. Hades too. I got to jump into it, but it looks amazing.
Oh yeah, it's a blast. So my wife actually, she did like a girls trip, so she was gone for 3 days. So she she gifted me a copy of it as something to do while she was out. Since I was stuck on dog sitting duty.
Right. That is an all-time wife move. Yeah, I'm going to make sure my wife listens to this episode so she gets the hint.
Oh, there you go.
But as somebody who, kind of hosts a comedic pop culture podcast, I'm kind of upset how funny you and your co-host Jordan are. Like, you guys just so awesome with your banter and so funny. How long ago did you guys start this? Where did you meet?
So we actually have been friends since childhood. We went to a summer camp together. We actually went to 2 different summer camps and we're both there. So that's kind of how we became mutual friends. So I've known Jordan for almost probably close to 20 years at this point.
Wow.
And then Shonen Flop, we actually are celebrating our 4-year anniversary. I don't know, when does this episode come out?
Probably next week or in a couple weeks.
Okay, so we actually just recorded our 4-year anniversary special literally on Sunday. So we are just about to be doing that. So very excited. I can't believe I started during COVID, as one does. And I can't believe it's still going 4 years strong.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's really, really well done, by the way. Like, it sounds so professional. It sounds like where we want to be when we grow up as a podcast, if you will. So, okay, in the About section of your podcast website, I saw an awesome pic of you with some capybaras, I believe. Where did you take that pic? And do you think they look like Glenn Powell?
So yes, definitely. My phone actually tagged him as Glenn Powell when I took those photos. And so capybaras are my favorite animal, as I've gotten my wife into it, though now echidnas are her favorite. I actually was doing some research, and in England, there is a place where you can meet Sherpa Wildlife Retreat, where it's about an hour and a half outside of London. I think it's near Cambridge, where you can go and you spend about half an hour hanging out with the cappies and feeding them and petting them. And they are absolutely, they live up to the hype. They're just guinea pigs. They're, literally guinea pigs the size of a golden retriever. They're just so chill. There were ducks eating their food. They could not care. They just were walking around saying, "Hey, what's up? You got a snack for me? If not, that's cool, man. You want to give me some pets?" Yeah, so it was just absolutely lived up to the hype, and very much would recommend meeting capybara if you have the chance.
Oh my gosh, you sold me. Like, that jumped up way high on my list of animals I want to meet. Like, for the top for me is like killer whales, but now I feel like capybaras are second place. So
yeah, there you go.
Way to go, man. That's amazing. So again, you do a show called Shonen Flop. It I believe is like a specific part of anime or a manga. Can you describe to our audience what shonen is or shonen jump is, and why does this genre resonate with you?
For sure. So Shonen Jump, it's an anthology magazine where there's usually about, I think, 17 to 19 manga series that run in it. And Shonen Jump is kind of the top dog in Japan. Shonen meaning boy in Japanese. It's really manga that's for that kind of 13 to 17-year-old, though I'm a little bit out of that, but that doesn't stop people from enjoying it. And it's really where the biggest hitters have come from. Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach are just amongst the hundreds, if not thousands of series that have run in that magazine.
Wow. Oh my God, man. Well said. Yeah. And yeah, I agree. It's funny, most of us on this, I think all of us are Japanese on this podcast. And it's like, it's always nice when you kind of learn something, I feel like, about your own culture. And I think this is such a gateway, I think, for people to get into manga, to get into anime. And also, like, you named some of those heavy hitters, which I think are becoming so global now, right? It's like, yeah, everybody knows some of those.
Yeah, and rest in peace, Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely well said. So I got a kind of fun question for you based off what you just said. If you could have any anime character's abilities, who would you choose?
Oh, that's a really hard question. God, gosh. I mean, there's just so many options. Like in One Piece, there's so many fun devil fruits.
Yeah.
Luffy's would be really cool. I mean, just having Goku's ability, the ability to fly, teleport your energy. I feel like Goku, like you could just kind of do it all if you had Goku's abilities, you know? So I think that's a classic for a reason, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think if you had those abilities, what's the chance that you would probably level a city that you'd be in?
That's a pretty good one. I think actually maybe that's too powerful. Maybe I would take Josuke's ability from part 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, where he has the ability to kind of rewind time on objects and fix them. Because it's a really cool idea where it means like, so for those who are unfamiliar, literally it's like, imagine you drop a vase, he can then cause the vase to reform. Yeah. And like literally he'll do stuff like find lottery tickets and reassemble the lottery ticket. So it's really cool. Yeah. He beats a bad guy who's like inside someone's stomach by punching through them and reassembling like a jar around the dude to catch him. And so you can just do like a lot of really crafty, but it also means you could be the world's best repairman and just kind of be low key about having these powers.
That's so true. Oh my God. That probably would have helped me on a few tests maybe in school.
Yeah.
You shred it up really quick, but then, put it back together. Now you can copy off of it. Not encouraging cheating, but hey,
yeah,
if you
could just erase your notes and then use it to reset the text you erased right before your test.
Or that's way better. Okay, way smarter use of it for sure. I could have used that, no doubt. Well, man, that's awesome. So let's see. What non-anime show, movie, or cartoon do you consider a shonen?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I mean, of course, all the Pulp Fiction stuff. I mean, like Star Wars, for instance, is definitely a shonen. I mean, Godzilla vs. King Kong, I would consider a shonen. I'm trying to think if there's any good TV shows, because shonen doesn't necessarily have to be action oriented. So like,
right. So
even like stuff like technically, it's hard to think of what is something that's really good. Like, I mean, American cartoons, like the entire Bruce Timm, that superhero pantheon, like Marvel, DC, that's all peak shonen. Like Jordan and I actually on our Patreon, we have this thing called the Shonen Drop where we do like a monthly recap, and every month we also do like a question. And so there's a manga called Record of Ragnarok, which is literally gods versus like iconic heroes. So it's like it's like Adam, like the first human fighting Zeus, and it's like whoever wins the most fights wins. And it was like, what if it was Shonen Jump versus Marvel, DC? So it's, so that's like that kind of stuff. So it's like Batman versus the guy from Fist of the North Star, Wolverine versus Denji from Chainsaw Man. So, I mean, really, that's if you got to talk shonen, like, yeah, duh, it's all the American superhero stuff is our shonen.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think the clearest example, or maybe the easiest example for me would probably be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like that boy coming of age, and then, he gets his powers, and then he tries to figure out his life now that he has powers. Like, I think for my favorite anime right now that's ongoing has to be My Hero Academia. And yeah, and I would say that's very much a shonen, right?
It definitely is. We've actually covered 2 of his series on our podcast because, for some context, Shonen Flop is about the failed series that ran in Shonen Jump. So it was really his 3rd attempt, and actually, we actually thought that Deku versus Spider-Man would be a really cool fight to see.
Oh my God, dude, yes, that would be fantastic. Yeah. Do you find anybody who does fanfic online that has reached out and said, "Yeah, I might be able to write that"?
No, but actually we have a Discord where people literally pitch like manga ideas, and I actually pitched one that an artist in the channel was like, that's really cool, give me a script and I'll write it. So that's how I personally have written a manga called Basketball Grandma, or the full title is I Can't Fly in Love Because My Grandma is a 6'4" former basketball player and prevents me from finding love. So
that's an amazing premise.
Yeah.
Okay, where did the inspiration come for that?
So I think it was like, I think I just saw like a really tall woman walking around, like she was like 6'4", and I was like, imagine like in 60 years when she's just like someone's grandma, and it's like you're like, oh, like you marry and like at the wedding, and then someone just has like a tall fucking grandma. It's like your grandma is just above everyone, and just like that's got to have happened to people where it's just like your grandma is just a fucking giant, and it's like how what happens when you finally meet this person's giant grandma?
I love it.
Like imagine getting dunked on by
someone's grandma. Yeah,
Gertrude.
Yeah, Gertrude just Dikembe Mutombo's you when you're like
that was
playing
actually
basketball.
that's actually his original name.
Oh, really? Nice. That's amazing. Well, yeah, I love it. I love that premise too. We got a link to that in the show notes. Make sure everybody can read that as well.
Mhm.
Let's see here. So, with the recent surge of successful live action animes, what do you think are the pros and cons between the live action series or shows versus illustrated or animated shows?
I mean, the pro, I think, is that it's more approachable. Like, for instance, there's an anime I watched with my wife called The Pocket Fairy Diaries, and I think it would be a huge hit if it was live action. Like, I think my parents would watch it, but no one will touch it because it's animated. It's literally, so essentially it's set in kind of a fake China, where it's about a girl who's an apothecary, and it's set in, like, I forget, like the 16 or 1700s, and she gets kidnapped and has to work for the emperor, but she uses, like, her medical knowledge to solve crimes. Like, the first episode finds out that one of his wives is getting sick because she's been using makeup that has lead in it, and so they talks about how lead is poisonous and stuff like that. So it's really cool, but like, and my wife loved it, but it's like, if you don't watch anime, you won't watch it. Despite, I think if it was a normal television show, it would be much more popular. But the downside is just there are limits to what you can do with people. Budgets don't go as far. You know, you have to compress plots. There are things that just seem ridiculous. Like, One Piece honestly was very impressive. I didn't think they could make One Piece live action work, but that took a lot of talent. That took a lot of care. Oda, the writer of One Piece, was in the room working on it, and that's something that's not always going to happen. And I think that's really the flaw. Is there are things that just, there are designs that don't work, there are plots that don't work, there are scenes that don't work, and powers that don't work. Especially with budget. Like, look at how even when they really were trying to do Avatar, they still couldn't make it as good as the show because there are just so many restrictions in live action. Even though it does give you a wider audience.
Yeah, I love that, and I agree with you. Like, One Piece was definitely one of those shows, and I hadn't really watched it going into it or read it going into it, but our co-host Scott did, and he I think was the most skeptical, and the fact that he was blown away by it, we were like, wow, they really did a great job with this One Piece show.
Yeah,
but I agree with you too on the Avatar of it all. Like, I wanted to like it even more than I did. Granted, it was way better than the M. Night Shyamalan version, of course, like by a mile, right? But I still was kind of, it felt like things were kind of rushed through. And I think that's what the point you were trying to make a little bit, right? It's like, because they have to condense these storylines, you don't always get like the character development that you always really want because they're so condensed. Yeah, I don't know. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I want to see more of the Avatar Last Airbender. I loved it. I'm excited that we got it, but there was definitely some places in it where I was like, man, can you guys let these scenes breathe a little bit more?
Yeah.
Can you give us more motivation behind these things? Because it feels like we're just flying by through them.
Mm-hmm.
I also should have mentioned the last few questions were done by Drake, another one of my co-hosts, and also a friend of the show, Frank, who might as well be a co-host from Geek Freak. So we just wanted to throw that in there because I felt like I weren't giving them credit for these awesome questions that they had asked. Now, this next one is actually from Scott, one of our other co-hosts, and he wanted to know, what would you say your favorite canceled manga is for either you or both you and Jordan that is still worth checking out?
Oh, sure. So actually, I can get up my list. I literally, so what we do for our 4-year anniversary is we rank every series we've ever read in tiers. And so we do the ones for this year, and then we put in like a master list. So actually, just give me 1 second and get that up.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think, let me give you the official answer of what the best manga we've ever read for this show is. 1 second. This is a spoiler alert because this episode is not out yet.
That's awesome.
Images. All right. So we officially thought that the best canceled manga we have ever read was something called Tricks Dedicated to Witches. And it's interesting where the mangaka, it got canceled because the mangaka said, I've run out of ideas.
Okay.
Not like, so the story is, it's about a magician in the real world, and he's doing a trick, and something goes wrong, and he dies. And when he wakes up, though, he's in like real world, like 11th century Europe. And he now is using his magic tricks to trick people into thinking he's actually a magician or actually like a devil, and helping these persecuted women who they think actually are doing witchcraft to survive. And so he talks a lot about stuff like palming and distractions and stuff, and there's some really cool elements where he sets up these tricks. And and the cool thing is the series really goes into detail about how the tricks work and how you could actually do these tricks. So there's no actual magic in the series. It's all actually applied illusions. And it's just a really cool idea that had a really fun story of a fun cast. But the author I can just tell that it's exhausting because all the magic was real. So he had to have been doing a ton of research. And you can see he's just kind of reaching. The tricks get more and more complicated in unreasonable ways, even if they are possible.
Yeah. So
it's really cool to follow that story. And the art is also very good. So I absolutely loved it. And it was a shame the author was like, this is too difficult to write the series.
Oh my God. What was the name of that show again? Sorry.
It's called Tricks Dedicated to Witches. So that's one of 2 series we've ever covered that we felt like really, really is just really good, even without considering it a canceled manga.
That is so incredible. It's almost like The Prestige, which is one of my favorite movies, but with time travel involved, and then this magician then saving people too, or like witches from being condemned or murdered. That just sounds such like a cool premise. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Did you have another one that you were gonna throw in there?
Yeah. So the other one in long term was like our favorite series ever is Time Paradox Ghostwriter, where it's about a mangaka who's not successful and his microwave gets struck by lightning and turns into a time machine. And he starts being given copies of Shonen Jump from the future.
Okay.
And now he starts plagiarizing essentially what is the One Piece in 20 years. And so it's him dealing with the idea of plagiarism, how it's not his own work, how does he become a greater author? And it's really cool because it only lasts about 15 chapters and got canceled, and it ran in Shonen Jump. But it really reads like a mini series because honestly, when you read it, you don't really know how it could have kept going.
Right.
And one of the early twists is his assistant is actually the actual author of this series he's plagiarizing from the future.
So his assistant is actually the one he's plagiarizing?
Will in 20 years make this series that he's plagiarizing with his time machine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know that? Is this like somehow he's always hiding it?
He finds out, but she doesn't know that because she's like, this seems so similar to this idea I had. So that's all I'll say, but it's really cool.
Oh my God. Another fantastic premise. Do you think these are like things that you would only be able to get from Japanese authors? Or do you think that, I don't know. It's like they sound so original to me that I don't know where I would have heard this. But, I guess I credit Japanese authors or writers as like being so creative sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think definitely that there's a cultural zeitgeist where people could create this anywhere. Mm-hmm. But Time Paradox Ghostwriter is so ingrained into how Shonen Jump works that I would say that is something that uniquely could only exist because of Shonen Jump.
Yeah, well said. I think that's fantastic. And you completely sold me. So if you wanted to find either one of these shows, is it simply a Google search? Like, how would you find them?
I think Time Paradox Ghostwriter may be officially available on the Viz app. Let me check right now.
Okay. Because, man, I want to read these. These sound so damn good.
Yes. So you can read that on the Viz app. You can read the first 3 chapters for free, and then I think it's like $3 for a month. It's only 14 chapters, so it takes like maybe half an hour to read it. Tricks Dedicated to Witches, I don't think was ever released officially in English, so honestly, you can just Google Tricks Dedicated to Witches Chapter 1, and then probably whatever link you find, you can just read.
Okay, that's perfect. Oh my God, man. Wow, I feel like I have homework now from this, and I like want to get right to it. Like, it sounds so good. All right, well, I think that kind of leads into kind of one of our last questions, I'd say. But
oh, geez.
Yeah, I know. This is flying by. We zoomed right through it. And the question is, do you prefer subbed or dubbed? And I think I know the answer.
What do you think the answer is?
I think subtitles, if I had to guess.
No, I actually am all dubs. I don't have very good vision, so it's hard actually to watch subtitled anime. I'll watch it when I need to, but also a big part is I have really been watching a lot of anime with my wife. I feel like I actually primarily read manga. I actually don't watch a lot of anime.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of the R ways, and she really prefers anime, watching it dubbed. And also there are just cases where the dub honestly can be better. Cowboy Bebop, I honestly think, for instance, the free run dub is better than the sub. That may be a hot take, but like that's just the truth of it. Is there are cases, and I just prefer not having to have to wear glasses while I'm watching television.
Right. And I agree with you actually, because there was a lot of animes that grew up listening to dubbed because of Cartoon Network, and then grow up in Hawaii. There's like a ton of Asian influence, so then there's some we would get in subtitles. And like the first time I watched Dragon Ball Z before going back to the original, just Dragon Ball, was all in dubbed. So I got used to watching it that way. Same thing with My Hero Academia. Like now that that's out, like when I first got into watching it, that was all dubbed as well. But then I went farther past where the subtitle or where the dubbed was. So I had to watch it in subtitle. And it was so hard for me to get used to the new voices. Where I was so
I'm
used,
with you.
right? Like I was used to them, like, in the English voices, it's just different.
I completely agree.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of this, like one anime that me and my wife really love watching is Spy Family. They're coming out with the movie.
Oh yeah, did you see Code White?
I did not. Did you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, my wife and I went like 2 weeks ago.
Nice. What'd you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, anime movies always have this issue where usually things like that, it can't be too influential, so it's more just like a fun ride.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it for what it was.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. What would be your newest, like, I know you don't watch a ton of anime, but if you had to pick like a new anime that you've really gotten into, or even a manga for that matter, yeah, what would it be?
So, I mean, the anime I would say of the year, perhaps the decade, is Frieren.
You're the third person to tell me that. Yeah,
it's just that good. It's definitely like this generation's Full Metal Alchemist. So Frieren's great. I mean, Apothecary Diaries is also excellent.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of, if Frieren wasn't there, that's what people would be talking about this season. Dungeon Meshi is also great. I think I'm trying to think. I'm just getting my phone because let me see what I've been reading lately.
Yeah, I'm sure the list is pretty long because you've had a lot of different things.
My favorite series I like to tell people to read that's running in Shonen Jump that doesn't have an anime is Witch Watch. So Witch Watch is about a girl who is a witch and her familiar who is actually mostly a human, but he's part Oni. And it's just kind of about wacky, fun hijinks. And so she's kind of a klutz, and they get a group of characters. They have a vampire, a tengu, a werewolf all join them. And it's just kind of like a really fun, it's kind of almost like a sitcom where they just are going on wacky hijinks. So I always tell people to read it. It's one of the funniest series I've ever read. My claim to fame is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Shen from Shen Comics.
I haven't. No.
So he's made like a ton of memes and stuff. Like if you Google Shen Comics, you'll recognize his work.
Okay.
I got him into it. So that's how I know it's like a good series. If like even professional cartoonists are like, wow, this series is actually really funny.
Nice.
And I won't spoil it, but they have perhaps one of the funniest jokes of all time. And also, it's like, if you tell someone you read Witch Watch, they'll be like, what's your favorite weird chapter? But then you got to specify, because there's so many weird, ridiculous chapters.
Okay,
like,
yeah. You're like, which one do I start with?
Like, yeah, there's multiple chapters where you just learn how to take care of genes. There's one that's structured like a how to read an English book. There's a Minecraft chapter. There's a chapter where they try and become professional YouTubers. So it's just, the entire series is just like silly hijinks. And it's a really, really great, funny time with some really great art. So definitely that, I would say, is kind of the sleeper hit. I think it's getting an anime soon, which would be great.
Ooh.
But for now, that's my number one series I think more people need to read that's currently running in Shonen Jump.
Oh man, that's amazing. Okay, again, you've added another thing to my list. It keeps going. That sounds hilarious. I mean, I kind of love anthology things too, where every time it's like a different story and whatnot, and that sounds very much like that's the case.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a ton of fun. Well, okay, actually, I got one more for you. If you could rewrite the ending to any sci-fi, it doesn't have to be anime, what would you do? Because it seems like you already have experience writing your own type of manga.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big component of our show is we actually talk about where it could have gone and how we would have redone it. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me to truly say how I would have revised things for like maybe a major thing. It's just hard. It's hard for me to think off the top of my head. I'm just trying to think. So for context, for an example, though, I could talk about a series that we had just covered called Takamagahara, which is the most recent series we've covered since we at the time of this recording. And it's about a guy who gets superpowers, but he wants to be a manga artist, and his brothers are all these crazy. They're kind of like the Body Improvement Club from Mob Psycho, and it's really fun. But then he has to go to like a special school for people with superpowers and not talk to them anymore. Yeah. And it just kind of kills the vibe. And it's just kind of like, why didn't they like keep him in the school? And it's like everyone is crazy, wacky hijinks, despite him being the only one who actually has superpowers, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, I feel would have been more fun than him just going into the superhero school where it's just kind of boring now and it's kind of what killed the series.
Okay, definitely. What did you say the series was again? Sorry.
It's called Takamagahara.
And so that sounds like it's a pretty big departure from what the original source material was, right?
Yeah. So, well, it's this gag manga for the first half, and then it just kind of it doesn't really have an identity that it's confident in, but what it did try and do just, it doesn't work, you know?
Yeah. I think you were talking about this on one of your last episodes where you were talking about like all the brothers are like on top of each other, all doing push-ups or stuff.
Yes, that's the series.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're doing family push-ups where they'll do push-ups on top of each other.
Oh my God. Yeah. I could see that being hilarious and ridiculous. And also people kind of missing like, what is this show about if the humor's so off the wall? I mean, I think
Exactly.
even for me, like starting out with One Punch Man, I was like, what is this show trying to be? Like, I don't get it. But once you settle into like, oh, it's so over the top, it's completely comedic, like you could just run with it, it becomes so much better. But I think starting out, it was kind of like a pretty big barrier to entry, I would say, for me.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, all right, man. Well, I think with that being said, where can people find you and support your work? Shonen Flop, again, it's incredible. You guys are running an awesome website, and is it every week also with the episodes?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me on. I loved your questions, and it was great talking to you. So if you ever need, if you ever got more questions, I'm happy to be on. And I'm sorry I couldn't beat everyone else on the show. But you can find me and my co-host Jordan and our guests. We've had a lot of really awesome people, like they talked about Shen from Shen Comics, Dinger from Scoob and Shag. We've had Red from Overly Sarcastic Productions. Mother's Basement has been on. And so what we do is, as we talked about a bit, we look at the lesser known manga that ran in Shonen Jump, talk about what it did wrong, what it did right, where it could have gone to prevent itself from being a flop. We just celebrated our 4-year. We just celebrated our 100th episode, which was really exciting. And you can find that every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time on iTunes, YouTube, wherever else you get your podcast, or our website, shonenflop.com. That's SHONENFLOP. You can also find us on Twitter at ShonenFlopcast and at our X. We're also on Tumblr at Shonen-Flop. But yeah, if people come check us out, we also got a Discord. We even have professional translators, which is really cool, dropping wisdom about some manga secrets.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. Yeah, we even have multiple like manga historians that just talk about interesting like historical trivia, which is really awesome as well. So it's just a great community if you're interested in talking about manga and anime, or even just learning more about like what it is to be a creator and pitching your own ideas.
Absolutely. Well, you completely sold me on this as well. Like, I realized I don't know crap about it. I thought I knew a little bit, maybe more than the average Joe, but you showed me that I've such a deeper level that I need to get to of understanding. So yeah, again, your show is fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on. Before you go, we ask all of our guests to say this, and it is, thanks for sticking with us. And then we'll let you have the final words.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, just, always get the 401k match, and thanks for sticking with us.
Right on. Perfect. Thanks, David. We'll talk to you later. Aloha.
The JoySchtick Show.
If you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, we'd really appreciate a follow, subscribe, and a review. Just how we like chatting with our friends, please share this with yours. Feel free to join the squad and follow us at JoySchtick.Show, JoySchtick Show on Twitter and Instagram, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you feel like submitting topics or questions to be discussed on future episodes, you can email us at JoySchtick.Show@gmail.com. As always, thank you, peace out, and make it a great rest of your week.